Well, hello there, my fellow rushers. How are you doing today? King Rex here. Today we're gonna be starting off new series. In this series we're gonna be making a review on every legend and companion in Legends of Kingdom Rush. We're gonna be doing them in order, so starting off from Gerald, and we're gonna end this series on the Sylvan Elf. So yeah, let's get right into it. And yeah, before anyone says, oh, but Bidoof is already doing this, I don't care. I want to do this too. So what? Just because he did it first does that mean that no one else can? Anyway, with that out of the way, let's start off with Gerald.
Prepare for glory.
Okay, first of all, let's see what the game has to say about him. Sir Gerald Lightseeker, mighty paladin from Veneria, uses his holy powers once again to protect these lands from a recent unknown menace. Alright, cool. Now let's take a look at his statistics, starting off with Gerald at level 1. So, you have 8 HP, which is fairly solid. It's not a bad stat. It's quite high amount of HP to start with. 5 armor, so his armor amount is medium. In comparison to other legends and companions, that's pretty medium amount of armor. You can definitely... It's gonna protect you from like a low to medium sized attack. From like a large attack, it could, but chances are it may or may not get through your armor. His damage is 4, but that's the average amount of damage that you can pull off. At level 1 he deals anywhere between 3 to 5 damage with his basic attack. And he also has 2 hexes worth of movement, which is pretty normal for most champions. Now for his traits. He has Fortify. Fortify basically gives you additional 2 armor if you don't use any action during your turn. So if, let's say, you just move and you don't do anything, you're gonna get extra 2 armor. So if you know that you're gonna tank a very heavy attack, it may be better off to fortify yourself in order to survive it and not take any HP damage. His second trait is Aura of Soul. What it does is it grants all nearby allies that are adjacent to him damage reduction against physical damage by 1. Now this is very big, physical damage. It's not like it doesn't reduce magic or true damage nor any damage over time abilities. It's just physical damage reduction, which is not terrible, you know, especially in the early stages of the game where you're gonna see only enemies that do physical damage. Reducing their damage by 1 just by standing near Geralt is gonna be fairly solid. This trait doesn't affect himself though. He still takes normal damage even though he has this trait. It just affects adjacent allies. Now let's talk about his skills at level 1. His basic attack, which is, you know, not a skill, it's just always gonna be there, but it's not terrible. 3 to 5 damage as we mentioned earlier. And it also has an epic effect, where it restores your HP, if the target is weakened. So if you hit someone who is bleeding, burning, or poisoned, you're gonna heal 1 HP. The HP amount that you heal still stays the same throughout each promotion, so don't expect to heal something like 3 HP every time you hit someone. Now let's move on to his actual skills. Starting off with the first one, Shield of Retribution. Now this ability is really strong, allowing you, protecting yourself or an ally from any incoming attack is pretty OP. So if someone is about to do something like 8 damage to you, you can just reflect it back and you take 0 damage. If someone is about to stun you, you say psych, I have shield. If someone is about to like put you asleep or poison you, it ain't happening. It's a very solid ability. I would say one of the best abilities to have in the early game. It's super strong. It may have 3 turns cooldown, but for the amount of efficiency that it provides, I would say it is good. It's a very strong ability and it should not be underrated. However, just a quick note, if you're taking damage over time, such as poison or burning, The shield of retribution does not block that, so keep that in mind. Now let's move on to Gerald at level 2. So, as you can see, he has 10 HP now, which is, you know, good. Now he has 2 more additional HP. His armor stays the same, which is alright, you know, it's not terrible. He still has 5 armor, so now his sufficient HP is all the way up to 15, which is pretty good against physical damage. Now his damage is also pretty high. His damage actually gets a pretty big power spike. It goes from 3 to 5 to 5 to 7. That's very big. Now you can one-shot low-tier enemies guaranteed, and you can also chunk mid to high-tier enemies with your basic attacks. And I forgot to mention, at level 1, he also regenerates 2 armor at the end of his turn if he has lost armor. So let's say you take 3 armor damage. At the start of your turn, you're gonna regenerate 2 armor. Same thing as at level 2, you regenerate 2 armor, which is, you know, fairly good. And his movement speed stays the same. Now let's talk about his abilities. The abilities, what do we have here? Well, we have quite a few. Starting off with his first ability that you start with, Divine Blade. Divine Blade is super good, but not really. It strikes an enemy and it deals true damage to them, which is pretty good, you may say. Like, dealing true damage, that should be OP, right? Because you go through armor. Well, true damage, even though it is nice, the problem with this ability is pretty big. One, it's a full action, and it's in melee range, meaning that you have to be already right next to an enemy in order to activate it. And sometimes, if it's like a low or even mid-tier enemy, sometimes it may be better to just use your normal attack instead of Divine Blade. And it has 3 turns cooldown, so you can rarely use it. It's not like I hate the ability, but I find it rare. I don't find it to be that useful in comparison to his other abilities. But I won't say it's a terrible starting ability. Now moving on to his other abilities at level 2. The second one that you can unlock is this thing, Glorious Swipe.
Holy.
What does Glorious Swipe do? Well, as you saw there, it deals area damage. You hit all the way up. You can hit all the way up to 3 people if you position yourself correctly. It has 2 turns cooldown. It also knocks back the enemies, and the damage is not terrible. You know, as you saw there, the damage is fine. I would say it's I would say it's much better than the Divine Blade because 1, it's a free action, and 2, it does provide with some cleanup. So if you have a couple enemies grouped up and you don't really have a lot of area damage on your team, Glorious Swipe is not a bad option to pick. I would say it's probably my second favorite ability on Geralt from his level 2. But there's one ability that beats Divine Blade and Glorious Swipe together. The ability is called Avenging Blade. Avenging Blade is probably the most OP skill that Geralt has. Not only does it deal more damage based on his missing health, it also heals you by half of the damage that you deal if you kill the target. So yeah, you can see why this ability is so strong. You want to intentionally get yourself low, so that way you can heal yourself. But you have to be careful, because this ability has, just like Divine Blade, it has 3 turns cooldown, it's a full action, and it's only in melee range. So Avenging Blade is basically a much better version of Divine Blade. Divine Blade is nice, but putting yourself in danger just to do a little bit of just to do some true damage is not that good, especially if you're gonna take a lot of HP damage. Meanwhile, with Avenging Blade, you can afford to take the damage, and because you know that you're gonna heal it back if you get the kill. So yeah, that's pretty much Gerald at level 2. Now let's move on to Gerald at level 3. As you can see here, he has pretty solid stats now. 12 HP, that's a lot of HP. 6 armor, so now his armor finally got increased by a little bit, you know, just 1 extra armor. So at level 3 he has a total of 18 efficient HP against physical damage. That's nearly boss levels of durability right there. So you can tell that Gerald is a very good tank. But also his damage, oh my god, his damage. Now his basic attacks can do anywhere between 7 to 9 damage. 7 to 9. That's very, very high. You can potentially one-shot mid-tier enemies, such as Asher and Enchantress, or what was this thing called? The Infernal Dog from Interdimensional Menace. You can one-shot a lot of people with Gerald now, once you get him up to level 3. And the good thing is that he also regenerates 3 armor per turn instead of 2, so that also got increased, which is very nice. You can pretty much regenerate half of your armor, which is very, very strong. His movement speed stays the same though. And now let's move on to his abilities at level 3. Starting off with the first unlockable ability, Martyr's Prayer. So, what does this ability do? Well, it's alright, it's not bad, but I don't find it to be great. You basically sacrifice some HP to heal an ally. Sure, even though the HP cost is very low, I don't find the healing to be that great. Like, sure, being able to heal an ally by 5 HP is solid, but I don't really take that much HP damage to begin with, so I never really found this ability to be that OP. For a beginner, this ability may seem very good, but in my personal opinion, Martyr's Prayer is kinda meh. I mean, why would you get that when you can get the Witch Doctor? But we're gonna talk about the Witch Doctor later on, but yeah, I don't find this ability to be great. The next one though is actually very solid. Martyr's Inspiration.
Forever. Ever.
So this ability costs 2 HP just like Martyr's Prayer, but the things that it gives are much more beneficial. Any unit that is adjacent to you, on allies only by the way, gain +1 attack damage on their basic attacks, only on their basic attacks, so their abilities don't change, the damage on their abilities stays the same. However, their basic attacks becomes a little bit stronger. They also take 1 less damage, and the damage reduction is for pretty much everything, which is OP, and it lasts 2 turns. And would you look at that, the cooldown is also 2 turns. So you can potentially permanently have your units dealing +1 damage, while also taking 1 less damage. Granted, it's not gonna be forever because it does cost HP, so eventually you're gonna run out of health to spam this skill, but if you have Divine Blade, you can just heal the HP all the way back up. So yeah, I really love Martyr's Inspiration. But not as much as the next ability, which is the last skill that you unlock once you get Geralt up to level 5. Rally.
I'll show them!
Let's fight! Don't
So this ability is just really good. Removes all debuffs, and it gives you +1 movement speed to anyone. As we saw in one of the clips, the Barbarian was able to move 4 hexes. 4 hexes is an insane amount. No, that, like, I can't even put in words how much efficiency this ability gives. It had the radius that it affects is very big. 2 hexes. Any ally standing 2 hexes away from Geralt is gonna get this buff, and it lasts for 3 turns. Unlike the Martyr's Inspiration, where that lasts only 2 turns, this thing lasts 3 turns. And the main difference is that it doesn't cost any HP. That's why I think this skill is probably the best one out of the level 3's abilities that you can get on Geralt. Sure, Martyr's Inspiration is strong, but mobility is something way more important in this game than dealing a little bit of extra damage. So, what are my thoughts on Geralt? Honestly, if I have to rank him from like D tier to S tier, I'll put him at A tier. I feel like he is very good. He has a lot of offensive capabilities. He's a pretty solid frontline to your team. He can absorb a good amount of damage. I don't think he is weak during any point in the game. That's the main thing about him. Early game, you have a pretty strong basic attack. You literally can reflect any attack back with the Shield of Retribution. Once you get to level 2, you can get the Avenging Blade and just be almost unkillable. And once you get to level 3, you can just get whatever you want. Honestly, if I was to upgrade the way I usually do it with Geralt is, once I get to level 2, I get Avenging Blade, and then I get the Rally or Martyr's Inspiration. Sometimes Martyr's Inspiration is good, but most of the time I go for a Rally just because of, you know, mobility. So yeah, he is a very strong champion, and I would say he's probably I would say he is maybe the 2nd or 3rd best legend that you can use. And you're gonna see why he is at the place that he currently is in the next episodes once we get to the other legends. So yeah, guys. Well, with that out of the way, that's gonna do it for today's video. Thank you everybody so much for watching. I appreciate you for sticking around to the end. Subscribe if you want to see more of this content in the future. And while you're at it, drop a like on the video. It means a lot to me. And I will see you in the next video. Until it comes, that was King Rexy. Over and out.